Hi folks, welcome back to the Metal Mill 52 workshop. My name is Bill and this is my workshop, and this is my 3.5 inch gauge LBSC Tich locomotive. If you'll stand by for probably the next 20 minutes or so, you'll see me detail how I made a repair, a fix on one of the buffer beams. I think that'll be some useful information, and also show how I replaced one of the aluminum buffer bars with steel, so just to try to give the locomotive a little bit more weight. A couple of things I just wanted to point out: I'm using these little button head cap screws, and they're very handy. I did a layout on paper for myself first to make sure it would work, and they have. And part of the reason I did that, this is the photograph of the underside of the front of an LBSC Tich, and here you can see this is the lubricator, mechanical lubricator, a little oil pot there, but notice that they've got it fastened to the front buffer bar, buffer beam, and they've used some hex head screws. This is actually what gave me the idea. So I've got these round rivet looking socket head screws, and I thought that would be a perfect idea. I could use these, and then if there's something that needs to get fixed inside, I could have the screws available to do that. So I finished the back one today. I'll probably knock out the front one tomorrow. I've already got a lot of the work done for it, but I thought I'd go ahead and wrap up the video so that I could publish this tonight, and it might be useful to people. So thanks again, everybody, for my new subscribers. If you're interested, ask any questions that you'd like. If you'd like to make a comment, please do so, because I'm always interested to hear what people have to say. And as always, please pass the word and help me grow the channel. If you don't feel like saying anything, just please give me a thumbs up. Let me know you're there, and I appreciate you as always, and I hope this is useful to you. Thanks, everybody. I ordered the replacement, or the few missing parts that I needed last night, so while I wait for those to come, there's kind of two things. One is making some steel buffer beams like I talked about, and the other thing is the kit came with 3 completed buffers and 1 not completed. So it's a pretty neat, simple little design. I was thinking I could start out with this as be a fun little lathe project to work on. So I have a piece of 1-inch steel chucked up, and my job now is to make the buffer end itself, and then the rod. It's an 1/8 inch rod that I'm going to thread 540 on the ends so that it can get screwed into the inside of the buffer cap, and then accept a little 540 nut on the end. So I wrote out the steps here, and I'll be going to the lathe and starting to make. And as you can see here, I put the 5C collet chuck on the lathe because that would be perfect for this operation. And the first thing I'm going to do, I've got a piece of 1-inch steel. It's a little drop, little cutoff that's only about 1.5 inches long. So I've got about half of it sticking out here. I just need to turn, first thing, to just turn a little section about a 1/2 inch long down to 3/8 of an inch that will fit inside the buffer. So I'll start on that. The last couple of cuts here. Use the automatic feed on the lathe again. Love the finish from the automatic feed. This is just ordinary steel, though. Back it off. I'll stop and measure, and probably just take one more and we'll be done. There we go, nice sliding fit here. I got it to right on the measure. I used the file to take it down just a wee bit more. So before I start drilling and tapping the inside, I'm going to turn down the outside to 7/8 of an inch. So after I turned the outside diameter to 7/8, I also profiled the back. There's a little rounded shape to the back of it, and then I've center drilled it. Now I'm getting ready to drill it 3/8 of an inch deep with a 1/4 inch drill. I'm preparing for the tapping the 540 hole. You know, I drilled the number 38 drill after we drilled out the center of the 1/4 inch. Okay, here I've started the 540 tap in. Because it's a small and delicate size, I'm just doing it by hand. And I've used some of this tap paste stuff I really like. I'll back it all the way out. You can see the tap paste stuff is kind of pink. And what I'm going to do after, there you go, get any little swarf off there. I'll go through it one more time, just real gently by hand. You can see it's only gone in about 1/8 of an inch, which is expected. And I've got some 540 bottoming taps that I keep here in a little Altoid pin. So I'll swap that out and put a bottoming tap in, so I'll have that bottomed out. And that'll be it for tonight. And threading the little 540, it doesn't get much easier than this. Put some tap paste on the brush it on there. Now I did sand off the end of the 1/8 inch rod with my belt sander, and I just start this by hand, really. No sense even going, machining it. I can do the reverse, use the power feed for the reverse, but I'll just thread a 1/2 inch portion here. I'll do it all by hand for a minute and show you what it looks like. Go ahead and do the whole portion, because I probably made this rod just a wee bit long. All the way to the end, and we'll back it off. There we go. Nice looking little thread there. Okay, that was fun. So here's the new buffer in the old body. And I'll show you what I did. I've got, this is a stainless steel 540 screw. I have a whole box of them. And I ended up using a bunch of different springs in here. So what I think I'm going to do is take this apart and leave it for now. I'm probably going to soak, you can see how rusty this thing is, this and the other ones, in some de-ruster overnight, and we'll take them apart and clean them up. I did order the few other parts that I needed. I ordered them, communicated with the folks. I ordered them from a company called Reeves in England. It used to be called AJR Reeves. Now they're Reeves 2000, but they seem super nice, and they've already shipped my stuff, so typical maybe a week or so. But that's what the new one looks like, and here's the old one. I think it came out kind of nice. This is a little fatter than the originals, but I'm not going to mess with it. We'll always know which is which. Which is the original and which is the replacement. Okay, here's the stuff. I couldn't remember the name of it, but I've used this a bunch of times. And if you watch the A-Bomb79 channel, you see he uses this all the time and swears by it. He's got a giant vat of it at his shop. Me, I'll stick with a teeny little jar you can buy from Walmart. But it's great stuff, and it's not very expensive. And as you can see, it says it's safe. It really is. I mean, you can get this stuff on your hands. I wouldn't want to drink it, but it's not caustic like some other things like muriatic acid or something like that. So here I've got it in a little sandwich bag baggie, and I'm going to put it in a nice safe Tupperware thing and just let it sit overnight, and we'll come back and check it tomorrow, and you'll be surprised how clean these things are. Starting off a little button here, then I'll switch it around and put it in a 3/8 inch 5C collet chuck. Here's a setup I'm using for putting a little angle on the front side of the buffer. You can see I got the lathe set up with a very steep angle here, feeding it by hand. Just taking off the smallest amount of material that I can, just to give it that desired shape. Buffer to me. thin it out and round it out a little bit. Took another cut at a little bit steeper angle, and now I'm kind of rounding off the sharp edge with the file so you can see the profile looks a lot more like it. I think I'm going to stop the lathe, and I'll have to pull the assembly out of the 5C collet a little bit. I'll loosen it up and then pull it out a little bit so I can file it a little bit thinner right there too, or maybe use a form tool. I'm using my cutoff blade just to cut the back side, just to thin it out just a little bit. This is going to come out real nice. Let's go into the center there and pull this back out. There we go. Now I can just take the file and file around the edge off there too, and I think I'll have a perfect buffer. Okay, now that to make the little rod, I've got an 1/8 inch 5C collet that I'll use that, and I'll use my tailstock threading die and thread both ends of it 540, and we'll be good to go. Okay, here we are the next night, Tuesday night. I took these things out of the evapo rust. They've been soaking for one day, 24 hours, and I rinsed them in fresh water and dried them off. And look at that. You saw how rusty they were before I put them in, and they all look perfect now. Oops. Just to make sure I got any traces of the water off. I dried it really good with a towel, but can't take them apart because I think that's riveted on there, but or peened on. So I'm going to hit them with a heat gun just to evaporate any water that's inside. But look how nice they are. Got all that rust off there. Beautiful. For replacing the buffer beams, I took off the aluminum ones, and these, it's a shame because these things are beautifully made, and you know, all the details are there. The problem is they're just so very light, and I do want to add weight. The guy that I bought the castings from said do everything you can to add weight. So first suggestion that one of my friends made was to replace the aluminum buffer beams with steel. So I got some, rather than using the 1-inch angle iron and machining it down, I decided to save myself a little time. I bought a 3-foot section of 3/4 inch angle iron from the local Lowe's store for $10. And the only thing you need to do, I need to machine this down because the material is, it's 1/8 of an inch here, out here by the edge where I'm pinching, but it's thicker in the center because of the forming. So I'm just going to machine, it's only about 10/1000ths of an inch, but I'm going to machine it down so that it's perfectly square and a uniform 1/8 inch inside in both of these little 8-inch sections. Each one of these will be enough material to make a new replacement buffer from. And well, I know I wanted to point out, I've got my soft jaws in the vise here. These are aluminum soft jaws, and you can see they're kind of beat up, but I just ran the file across them to remove any burrs, and I've got this nice ledge milled in there from previous projects. And one thing's nice about that is I'll be able to set the angle iron in there, and I know it's level, and I can just clamp it down and do my cleanup machining very readily. Now that it's cleaning up, as you can see, I'm just taking the 10th out deep as nose, just to clean up that little angle. Just clean up the little angle. This is actually the third one I've done because I got a little too aggressive on the first one, so I got too much material. So most things I'm having a 3/4 inch stock to do. Next phase, I've made the brackets and the steel brackets and the new buffer beams. Here's one that will be made for the front. So I've got them roughed out, cleaned up, ready to go. My plan is here to drill and tap these things for 440 screws. So I've carefully clamped things together, and I used a transfer punch to mark the holes in the existing frame. Obviously you wouldn't do it this way if you were doing it from scratch, but there's existing holes in here for 440 screws. These are the old ones. My plan is, instead of using screws and bolts that they had the screws on the inside, the screw heads on the inside, I thought I would use these nice looking round head stainless steel 440 machine screws that I have and just tap the screw locations in the little angle brackets, tap them for 440, so in essence the angle bracket itself becomes the nut, and I can just screw it on from the outside. Let me show you. So I think that'll look kind of nice. I'll have to cut these things because they'll be too long, but I think that'll be a nice solution there. I'll just cut them off flush once I have them drilled and tapped and put in place. Alright, this is the first official use of my universal pillar tool. Now that I've, for the drilling function rather, I did use the other part for the stamping, but this is going to be cool because I can use it to drill all the holes and then use this part. I'll show you in a second after I've got all the holes drilled, I can use this as a tapping jig for the 440 holes for the angle brackets. So after I marked them with the transfer punch, I used my Starrett center punch to give me a little bit better hole to pick up, and now I can go align this freehand to pick up with the center drill, to pick that up just to make a little bit better starting hole, and then I can come back with my number 41 drill, which is my proper tap drill for a 50% engagement for a 440. So I'm going to just go ahead and do that, and I'll bring you back to show you the tapping operation. If you want to hear the, well, I'll do one little center drill here just so you can see. Taking it really easy because that's a sewing machine motor, if you recall. There we go. Lather, rinse, repeat. Okay, so I got all the holes drilled, and I've got my little tapping head set up here. Let me see if I can, there we go. I can see it a little bit better now. Gotta say, this is the coolest thing ever, just having this set up. I probably need to make a dedicated vise just for the pillar tool. That would be a fun project sometime down the road. But I'm using the shaper vise that I found online and redid for the Gingrey shaper, which I haven't really tried with that yet. But now I'm putting some tap paste on a 440 tap, set it in there, and if you can see what I'm doing, just tapping away the little tapping jig, nice and straight. And there we go. So I just got to do all 6 of these and we can check it out in the chassis. And as you can see here, we've completed the drilling and tapping of the angle brackets for the inside for the 440 screws. So the next step is to lay out and drill tap for 540s round heads that will connect here. I've also drilled and tapped 4 holes in each of the brackets. I just finished tapping them the 540. Thought I'd show a picture of this, that for the tapping I actually just disassembled the drill head. It takes 2 seconds. Just loosen that little ball handle and you can pop the whole thing off, lay it up on top of that tool cabinet there, and then I can just use the tapping head for the 540s. So my game plan here, I'm going to mark the holes for the rear bumper, rear buffer beam, using these as my template, drill 7/64 holes through here first, and then drill clearance holes for the 540 screws. And here's what it looks like with the little angle brackets crazy glued in place. Getting ready to drill these out.